All right, so I'll probably not do a good job with the mic, but my name is Brian Morgan, and I'm the chair of what is called Computer and Information Technology at Marshall. And what we have is a major in IT that has several areas of emphasis, including game development. So I want to take just a couple minutes and talk about our program in general, and then I'm going to let Matt, who is a professor in the game development area, talk to you about what we have to offer students in gaming and some of the games that or show you some screenshots from some of the games that our students have done. At Marshall, there's actually 4 degrees in computing or IT in general. Computer science, our program in computer information technology, and management information systems, and a digital forensics program that's kind of like CSI, okay, for computers. Good. Back in 2012, I know this sounds old, but 6 years ago, they do a 10-year survey of West Virginia employment. Projects will be nearly 100 annual openings in IT. And honestly, probably 1 or 2 openings a week come across my desk for jobs throughout the state, throughout the area that we're able to send out to our students. And top 3 jobs in demand are computer software engineers and developers. That includes game developers, okay, app developers, which is huge, of course, and network and computer systems admins. And so our program as a whole is a great fit for West Virginia employers. Now, how many want to stay in the state of West Virginia and work? Okay, well, that's okay because you don't have to going through our program. Good. But computer and information technology is still growing. We have 136 majors this semester, which is the highest number we've had ever. So it continues to grow at a pretty good pace. And we teach key scientific and technical skills that are going to get you a job no matter where you go. So you don't have to stick around Huntington. You don't have to stick around the area. But there are great opportunities in the state as well. We don't focus on a single domain, but instead we try to make you a well-rounded IT person, but at the same time allow you to focus on something specific. We also have a 2+3 agreement in place with Mount West. So Mount West has a 2-year program for gaming, and then you can come to or earn an associate's from Mount West, then come to the university, and for 3 extra years, walk out with your bachelor's degree in game development as well. Students in our program, they go work everywhere, okay? Industry, government, education. We've got grads once they graduate. So we're not a single employer domain, I guess you can say. When I was an undergrad in a computer science program, I was told, you're going to go work here when you graduate. So I don't want to work there. Yes, you do. You're going to go work here when you graduate. And that program trained people to go more or less work for the one company. That's not the case for us, okay? We have students that work a little bit of everywhere, including the U.S. Department of Treasury, West Virginia State Auditor, Hewlett-Packard, Yahoo, some of those little companies you probably never heard of, right, like Yahoo. So, I'm kidding, of course. A lot of websites, backcountry.com, ecampus.com, Booz Allen Hamilton, Brick Street, go ahead. Bocor, Human Head Studios. Hey, that sounds like a gaming place to me, right? Firaxis, Lasso Games. Anybody hear of Lasso Games in Huntington? They highly encourage you to check out their booth downstairs when you go back down. But they've taken some of our students on as interns. The university hires a lot of our students, and of course the National Guard in IT positions. Several students have gone on to grad school. So once they finish our school, our degree in computer and IT, they go on to become lawyers and doctors, which is interesting when you think about it. But the one guy who went to med school at WVU, he came and got an IT degree because he wanted to make medical devices for surgery. And so he thought with an undergrad programming degree and then a med school degree, that's what would do the best. But people in game design or RIT, it says me, but that's actually him. But math. So how many like math? Hey, I'm impressed. I'm glad some people actually raised their hand. That's impressive. Geometry, but it's on the minimum now. So, but anyway, people go on for advanced degrees as well. So a lot of opportunity at Marshall for different things. So I want to talk to you about our areas of emphasis in general. A couple of them, and I'll let Matt talk about the big one that you're probably here for. But what happens when a student comes into our major, computer and IT, is for the first 2 years, you'll take classes with students in web development, app development, computer application development, and the gaming students. And then you'll be able to specialize in your junior and senior year in one of those areas. So what happens in those areas is you get 18 to 24 hours of focused courses to teach you how to do what you're wanting to do. So on a diploma, it says Bachelor in Science in Computer and Information Technology, and then whatever area of emphasis or more than one area of emphasis you choose, that's what goes on your transcripts. So the emphasis available: computer app development, web application or mobile development, and game simulation development. In computer application development, it focuses on software development, software engineering. You learn languages like C++ and C#, and you heard the keynote. She talked about both of those. Students also learn how to specify, design, and build large-scale software systems. So not gaming specific, maybe not web specific, but if you're wanting to build applications that go on computers like Microsoft Office, okay? If you wanted to build applications like that, that is our computer application development area of emphasis. My favorite, because that's what I teach in, is the web application and mobile development. So we hit you with a lot of web development languages, and we're not talking about going out and making a site that says, hey, this is my homepage, thanks for visiting. We'll teach you how to make e-commerce websites. This spring, my students are going to develop the Nile.com, and that's Amazon's chief competitor. You get it? Two big rivers? Okay, no, yeah, thank you. My humor, see, humor doesn't get any better with age, I see. But we also encourage students to minor in things like art, for graphic design for web students. We have dedicated iOS development and Android classes, so you can get the best of both worlds, develop apps for just about any phone that exists, for any web platform that exists, and those areas are growing as well. But nothing has grown as fast as our game and simulation development area of emphasis. And that's where I was fortunate enough to hire Matt Mundell a few years ago to teach in that area, and we'll let him talk about it for the rest of the time.
All right, thank you, Brian. I always start classes by saying, how is everyone? So even though he started, I feel like I have to say that still. So everyone's still okay from like 10 minutes ago? Okay, so yeah, I teach at Marshall's CIT program. Specifically, I teach most of these game development classes. I teach intro programming and programming classes, but mostly game development classes, because that's what my degree is in. I have a master's in game development and design from RIT in New York. It's what I love to do, right? And I think that's what most of you love to do. That's why you're here, right? That's why you came to the Expo. So what we do in our program, when I started teaching, I wanted to make sure that students get a good variety of experiences, different game engines that you might use, different, whether you like art or story design or programming. We have all of those things. You can get bits and pieces of all of that. Depending on what you want, you can focus on whatever your specialty is in our classes. So we have classes that focus on like 2D game programming, 3D game programming classes. We have some art classes, an artificial intelligence class. We have a mobile gaming class that specializes in how to get games on devices, tablets, phones. Also websites goes along with that a little bit. And we have several dedicated nice labs on campus now. It used to say one, but now we've got our newer, actually it should say three probably now. We've got still the Magic Lab and the new Project Lab with all the cool like PS4s and Xboxes and things. So we have got all sorts of nice resources on campus to help you learn more about games and work on these specific things. Like if you want to make a console game, we can help you do that. Go ahead and flip slide for me. Okay, so all of our students will participate in a senior project course. For our game students, that is going to usually be like they'll either work with me or our other game design teacher to make like just a big game that you can put on a portfolio, or sometimes students will take that game and maybe they'll say, oh, I want to sell this now because it's really cool. So we'll help them to figure out how do you go and start a company, how do you start an indie studio, and then sell their game. You also have the opportunity to do a internship. We have a lot of students who have internships just as in general programming students, like at Core 10, places like that. But we also have a lot like at Lasso Games. Brian mentioned they're down there. They have a booth down there. They have several of our students work there. They kind of cycle through interns for us. And they've been really great about that. So you get some experience hands-on with a game studio. I've had a few other students who do like, they started doing, after they took my 3D modeling class, they started doing freelance artwork online and got paid for doing freelance art. So again, just depends on what you like to do. Some students love doing the artwork stuff. Some students love the programming, and we'll find a fit for whatever you're interested in there. Go ahead. Okay, yeah. So I feel like this one should have been more in the generic. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, yeah, we can fix up our. Yeah, there's where I was expecting to go to here. So game design and CIT. What we do is we give you lots of experience in a variety of tools. So we use Unity in one class. We use. You all heard of Unity? How many of you have started making games already in or tried in Unity or something? Okay, a few of you. Good. Yeah. I guess are you all? What do we have here? Like more high school students? Are there high school students? Okay, mostly high school. Anyone Mount West students?
I'm a Mount West and high school student.
Okay, are you like dual credit kind of a thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so if you are coming in from like high school is always when I took like when I was in high school, they did not have programming. They didn't have games certainly. All they had was one class and how to make a PowerPoint basically. But now you all have more opportunities. It's getting better and better every year. I always get students who come in with at least some programming, and then I get nowadays some students who've already done some game design in high school, which is great. But we will start, from scratch, assuming you haven't had that experience yet. After you take our first couple years, just intro programming and things like that, like Brian said. And again, if you are a Mount West student, you would not necessarily take all those. You would have our 2+3 program. You would a lot of your credit from here would transfer and count for most of our intro classes. But regardless, for game design, you would start out just from scratch as if you had not used it before. You'd use Unity in one class. We use Unreal Engine. You all heard of Unreal Engine? Anyone have a favorite, by the way, yet? No, maybe not.
I've played so many games, I can't even remember
Which is made and what, yeah.
I picked Unity because I played so many older games when I was younger that was made by them, and they were really great.
Okay, yeah. Okay, well, we teach, one class does Unity, one class does Unreal. That way you get experience in both, and then you can decide what you like and what you want to use in other future classes or in your own projects, your capstone, that kind of thing. We have a class that just teaches you how to make an engine from scratch in DirectX. Anyone try that yet? That's kind of hard. That's one of our harder classes, but it's really fun to see how Unity would work. The back end of Unity or Unreal, how that engine actually came to be from just starting in C++ or something, right?
What would you do if you make Scrum use both of them at the same time?
Well, if you program things well, if you know what you're doing, then you can make things that are transferable easily. But most people, once you're settled on one engine, you would not change normally unless another engine offered some feature that you just had to have for your game, right? But yeah, that's why we give you a good foundation in just general programming experience in project design and things like that. Because if you develop things well and with good software engineering technique, then you could take your code, your classes, your enemy scripts, and transfer those into a different project if you had to, a different engine if you had to. We also have a class just in 3D modeling, like I mentioned. We use Maya in that class, or we can talk about how to use Blender too. That's free, but we have free Maya for university students. And we have other classes where you'll learn like Photoshop if you haven't used that before, or similar tools. Go ahead and go next. Yeah. Our specific courses we have, 340 is our game dev class, and then 441 is our second game dev class, which is on 3D games. So we have one class that just starts you out nice and easy on 2D games, and then we go into 3D games. Our computer graphics class is the one where you learn how to make an engine from scratch, like if you were just to start in C++ just from code, how to make a whole engine from that. Game Dev 3 is AI, so specifically talking about how to make like realistic behaviors for characters and enemies and things, how to do pathfinding techniques to help your characters navigate a map or whatever it is. All sorts of cool things they cover in there. And then I teach, again, the 3D modeling class, which is the slideshow that was going on before we started, were example 3D modeling projects from our students, so various things that they made in that class. Modeling/simulation development class, I'm teaching that right now. That's kind of a sequel to the game dev classes to let people make bigger projects, and specifically to cover how to make like educational games that are for maybe military simulations, which would be like a first-person shooter, or environmental simulation. That's one we just finished making in class, a simulation to show like if there's too many wolves in an area and they'll eat out all the other animals and then they'll die off too because there's no food left for them, right? So various simulations and things like that. And then finally our mobile game development class for specifically putting games on phones and things like that. So again, like Brian said, if you wanted to go to our program, you would get a general set of courses for just programming, web design. You'd also have to take like general university. All universities have their gen ed requirements, right? But like our keynote speaker was saying, we're all there for the keynote, right? It's really good to have that general background and have those experiences. Because one, a lot of those skills, you may not even realize where they will transfer over, but you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember covering something like that in theater appreciation, and now I'm really glad I did that. Maybe not theater appreciation, but I make fun of that class a lot. I took that class and I enjoyed it. It does have a lot to do with game design actually, so that's actually a good example. But and then when you get into like junior year, these are the kinds of classes you would take if you are interested in game design specifically. Okay, you can go on. Yeah. So just showing off some pictures and things. So we'll learn how to make games. Just obviously that's the main point. And simulations. Again, we have one class specifically on making educational games with a purpose. And we also talk and discuss a lot like player psychology. How do we make a game fun? How do we make a game? What is the difference between this game and that game? Why is that one more fun? And this it looks better, it looks prettier, but it's not as fun, right? Right. Everyone wants better graphics, but sometimes better graphics.
Oh, okay, graphics don't make good games.
Right. So that's great because that's the kind of discussions and things that we want people to have in our classes. And I get people, start fighting about it. Yeah. I think a lot of older games that don't have the graphics were more fun. So why is that though? Why is that? And
Smart game design.
yeah, smart game design, good gameplay, and those are the kinds of questions that we want you to start asking, and we'll cover those things in classes. Anyway, and so we talk about how to make our games engaging and not just do the technical side of it. We do focus a lot on the technical side of it, but we'll talk a lot about player psychology, artwork, story design, things like that too. Go ahead. You'll learn, again, to make 3D art. So I've got, I think, several slides here. I guess if I have my other slideshow nowadays, we can get rid of this part. But yeah, so more examples of our students' artwork. So that particular class, just real quick, is it just teaches you basic 3D modeling at first, and then how to do texturing and do materials and lighting, things like that. And then I have an assignment where they have to make a room, like a bedroom or a throne room or something like that. And then one where they have to make and animate a character. So they do some character design too. So a lot of
Kind of like a version of Sim.
yeah, it's a lot of topics to cover into one class, but you get a nice array of art experience in that class. Yeah, I like that one because it does look nice and it looks funny like that. Go ahead. I think there's several slides here with some more artwork. Yeah, a throne room with his character was not related, but he put it in the throne room anyway. So he's got James Bond with a Game of Thrones kind of thing going on. Keep going here. Oh yeah, this is one of our computer labs that I was just talking about. This is a 3D model of the computer lab where the class was in. Because I told my students they have to model a room, and this student was snarky. He's giving another presentation right now, actually. When we're done a little early, probably you can go see his presentation. Tim Johnson made this one. So this is one of our computer labs where you would learn about how to make a computer lab as a 3D model. It's very kind of Inception-like. But yeah, so this is a pretty good model. Go ahead. I think there's another one or two. Yeah, so your cliche blacksmith that everyone wants to make as a 3D model. Keep going here. I don't know how many more. Another blacksmith, yeah. And keep going. Oh yeah, this one, that's another. He's here today too. Nice Alice in Wonderland theme kind of 3D artwork. So this is all just from one class too. So we have plenty of other game design classes. They're of course just the most visual, so I stuck a whole bunch on our slideshow. You'll learn also, he asked if you like math, and we had several that like math. That's good. I get a lot of people are afraid of math or intimidated by math, but what I have always found is that when you learn game design, and you need some math, you need to know how do I do some SOHCAHTOA and do some, how do I use sines and cosines to get this arrow to shoot in the right direction at my enemy. That's a lot more fun than doing like a math problem on a worksheet, right? And so I get people who don't like math, but then they understand it, they learn it better because they need it to make their game work, right? So we will cover that in our classes. I will always ask, like, who remembers sine and cosine? And everyone's like, oh no. But we'll cover it, and we will help you figure out, get it in your head how it actually works, and you'll get better at it when you're making something cool with it, something that's active and alive and working functionally. So we'll do lots of things in our game classes to cover, like vector math and geometry and all sorts of things. Keep going. You'll also, again, you'll have plenty of opportunities to research whatever your specialty is, whatever you are interested in. Like, who's interested in audio, like our keynote person? Any audio fans, like big, you want to do audio? A little bit, maybe? Okay. Yeah. For games or film even, or anything? I don't know. Okay. What about art? Who just wants to make 3D models and cool stuff in art? What about programmers? More programmers here, maybe? Okay. That's good, yeah. 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 You could also just do all of it, yeah. When I went to grad school, I just wanted to do all of it, and I picked the grad school I picked was because, like the other one that accepted me, they said, we only want you to specialize in one thing. And the other group said, no, you can do whatever you want. So I clearly chose to do the one that, even though that one was in New York and the other was in Florida. So everyone was like, are you crazy? You went to New York instead of Florida, where you could have gone surfing and stuff? I was like, well, the grad school was a lot better about letting you do whatever you want. So we do that too. So you'll be able to, you'll learn the basics of game engines and games and art in our classes, and then you'll take like internship or capstone independent studies and develop whatever specific thing that you want. Like this was a picture of a procedurally generated terrain so that you can go forever and ever and ever, and it will continuously change and look new and random. Yeah, kind of like that. So if that's the thing that you want to make, we might not do that in one of our classes because we only have so much time in one class. But then you could do that as an independent study or a capstone, so you'll have plenty of opportunities to do whatever it is that you specifically want to do. Go ahead again. Oh yeah, that's a video. Can you hit play on it? Oh yeah, you can hit the lights there.
How many years would it take to get a serviceable education in, like, get a good enough education to get a job in this field?
Well, people have various experiences in game design. Everyone's going to tell you. You can hit play on that video, Brian. It should loop until you're done. Yeah. So it should just loop now. So like at Mountain West, you'll get 2-year degree. It depends on how much you do on your own, basically. Like if you get there 2-year at Mount West, and then you do a whole bunch of cool projects and make a portfolio that can get you a job somewhere, then maybe that's enough. If you're not ready at that point, or you haven't had enough experience at that point, then maybe you want to get a 4-year program. So again, if you were from Mount West, you could transfer in to Marshall and you not have to take a lot of general classes. If you just started at Marshall, then you'd be good to go with a 4-year degree. And that would give you plenty of experience to get into any like intro position or internship that you'd want. But again, it depends on how many extra projects that you make on your own.
So if you don't want to be paying off student loans for the rest of your life, then work on your own.
Well, that's going to depend on the person and your own personal situation. But yeah, we do have scholarships and things just at Marshall in general that you can apply for to help you out. But I'll answer more questions. But these are just general classes, games from our classes, projects that students have turned in. So these are the assignments that I give out for people. You don't have to do any worksheets for me. You can do stuff like this, and you turn them in. Right? There's that Jersey Devil people were looking at before. That was the game that used it. Okay, so like it says down there, my purpose in all those classes that I teach here is to leave each one with a project like these projects or better ones even that you can put on a portfolio, and then that's what will get you a job, right? So like our keynote was saying down there. See, every year I set that to loop and it never loops. I don't know why. It's a PowerPoint bug, I think. But anyway, when you want to go and get a job, that's what you need is to show, hey, here's a thing that I made, now give me a job. Because I can make a thing that's cool, right? So that's our goal, and when you take like capstone and things, part of that will be to make a portfolio, at least when you take it with me, to make a portfolio so that you can go and get a job or start your own company. You can always do that too, but if you don't want to do that, you want to get a job somewhere else, you make cool stuff like this, stick it on a website and show off what you've done. It always feels a lot better too. Once you've got business cards and a website, you can show off what you've done. You feel a lot more confident about getting a job. And yeah, it just depends on the person, how much experience you need and how much preparedness you need to feel ready for that. But like for me, I felt like I wanted to go on to grad school before I really did more stuff. So I wanted to get more experience. And that's what I did. But that. Okay, can you go on to the next slide? Oh yeah, so I thought that was our last one. All right, so thanks again for listening. So I think we already had some questions, but let's keep going then. So did you have another question?
Yeah.
Most of those they were all either Unity or Unreal. I've got one that you could play, I guess, from our DirectX class, but like that one's in Unity. That's Unity. The next one's Unity. All the 2D ones, I think they're all Unity, and I think all the 3D ones are Unreal. Some of them do, yeah. Some of my students, because they have internships at Lasso Games, and they use GameMaker, so some of my students have more experience with GameMaker.
They use GameMaker
Yeah.
Studio at a major game development.
Yeah, I think they're still using it, yeah.
So awesome. I mean, in recent years, a lot of
They used it for some of their projects anyway. I don't know if they're using it for all projects.
Well,
Yeah, that one's Unity. That's a senior project one, I think.
GameMaker, especially as the last couple of years, has been proving itself as a real game.
Yeah, that's the one that I think is in GameMaker.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh yeah, that one. No, that one's Unity. Brian, do you know where Michaela Mead went? Actually, she did a year abroad in Japan. I guess she liked it so much there, she didn't come back. Yeah, that one's Unreal. You can tell from the debug statements there if anyone's used Unreal. Again, the person who made that one is across the hall there doing another presentation right now. Oh yeah, that one was a good one. So this one was cool because they had it set up. One of my students for this project was doing an honors option, so that means he gets extra credit for our honors program at Marshall. And so he set it up so that it was procedurally generated. It would randomly generate little hallways with like either like one of the little sharks or the axes, or that way it would continuously be different every time. So that's the kind of thing you can do with this. Right?
That one right there is one of my favorite, actually.
That one looks cool. I've got that one to play, but it doesn't play very well on my laptop downstairs. That's just for checking email, but you can still try it. It's extra hard to win, though, because the frame rate lags on my laptop, so that there's a time limit on the levels, and you can't beat it. Yeah, but okay. Yeah, it's just for hardcore players. But other questions? Any other questions? Okay. Well, if there aren't questions, I feel like I'm in a class now, because no one ever asks questions for me. Yeah, so if there aren't other questions, I guess we are done.